What happens when a 21-year-old Filipino tennis star suddenly becomes impossible for the world to ignore? Alex Eala is walking into the US Open with a spotlight that goes far beyond the tennis court. And this time, New York is watching closely. Her rise has already caught the attention of major names like Carlos Alcaraz, Aryna Sabalenka, and other global tennis stars. But the biggest surprise is how quickly Alex Eala has become a symbol of Filipino pride. From leaving Manila at a young age to training thousands of miles away in Spain, she built her game through years of sacrifice, pressure, and relentless work. Her connection to the Rafa Nadal Academy helped shape that journey, while her performances against elite opponents showed that she wasn't simply another promising young player. Now, with Nike putting Alex Eala in the spotlight ahead of the US Open, the message is much bigger than a sponsorship campaign. It is a sign that the tennis world is beginning to see just how powerful her story and her fan base can be. And with millions of Filipinos following every step, New York could be the stage where Alex Eala takes another massive step toward becoming one of tennis's biggest young stars. But the real question is whether she can turn all this attention into an unforgettable US Open run. But the attention around Alex Eala isn't coming from nowhere. Behind the headlines is a journey that started years before the giant New York spotlight. As a young player, Alex left Manila and moved to Spain to chase a dream that most people would have considered almost impossible. Training at the Rafa Nadal Academy meant facing stronger competition, adapting to a completely different environment, and spending countless hours improving every part of her game. There was no guarantee that the sacrifice would pay off. She had to build confidence far from home while learning how to compete against players who had already been shaped by Europe's demanding tennis system. That experience became one of the biggest foundations of her rise. Rafael Nadal's academy saw her work ethic up close, and Alex eventually carried that mentality onto the professional tour. Her breakthrough performances against players such as Iga Swiatek showed that she wasn't afraid of the biggest names, while victories over stars like Jessica Pegula proved she could handle pressure when the stakes were high. Now, every match feels different because opponents know exactly who is standing across the net. Alex Eala is no longer an unknown youngster hoping for an opportunity. She is a player whose movement, left-handed game, return pressure, and fearless approach can create serious problems for established stars. And that makes her US Open story even more interesting, because the bigger her profile becomes, the harder every opponent will prepare for her. But there is another side to Alex Eala's rise that makes this US Open moment even more fascinating. The pressure is no longer coming only from the scoreboard. It is coming from the expectations surrounding a player who has quickly become one of the most talked about young names in tennis. Every time Alex steps onto the court, Filipino fans see more than a match. They see years of sacrifice finally reaching the biggest stages in the sport. That support has followed her from smaller tournaments to major events, and in New York, it could become especially powerful. With a huge Filipino community in the area, the atmosphere around Alex can feel completely different from a normal tournament environment. The cheers, the flags, the social media reaction, and the constant attention can turn one match into a worldwide event. But that kind of support comes with another challenge. Expectations become heavier when everyone believes something special is about to happen. Alex has to stay focused while facing opponents who have far more experience in Grand Slam pressure. Names like Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, Iga Swiatek, Elena Rybakina, and other established stars know exactly what it takes to survive long matches, difficult conditions, and hostile moments. Alex is still building that experience, but what makes her dangerous is the way she approaches players who are supposed to have the advantage. She doesn't need to be the favorite to create problems. Her left-handed patterns can disrupt rhythm. Her return game can immediately put pressure on an opponent's serve. And her aggressive baseline tennis can force higher-ranked players into uncomfortable exchanges. That combination is one reason her rise has attracted so much attention. But the biggest test is mental. When the crowd is screaming her name, when millions are watching online, and when the match reaches a deciding set, can Alex still play the same fearless tennis she showed when nobody expected anything from her? That is where her years of training matter. The long days away from home, the difficult transition from junior tennis to the professional tour, and the lessons learned from competing against elite players have all prepared her for moments like this. She has already experienced what it feels like to face enormous expectations, and every difficult match has added another layer to her game. Now the US Open gives her a chance to show how far that development has really gone. A deep run would not simply add another result to her record. It could change the way sponsors, opponents, media, and casual fans view Alex Eala permanently. Suddenly, she wouldn't just be the exciting Filipino prospect everyone was talking about. She would be a genuine threat on one of tennis's biggest stages. And that is exactly why the next few matches could be so important. The world already knows her name. Now Alex Eala has the opportunity to give them a reason they will never forget it. And this is where the story of Alex Eala becomes bigger than one tournament. For years, Filipino tennis fans had to watch the sport's biggest stars from a distance, wondering when someone from their own country would finally become a major name on the global stage. Now that Alex is standing under the brightest lights, that question is changing. She has already shown that she can compete with players who once seemed untouchable, and the attention surrounding her has grown far beyond traditional tennis circles. The Nike spotlight, the growing international fan base, and the excitement around her US Open appearance are all signs of how quickly her profile is expanding. But Alex knows that popularity cannot win a Grand Slam match by itself. Once she steps between the lines, the noise disappears and everything comes down to execution. One loose service game can change a set. One missed opportunity can swing an entire match. One moment of hesitation against an elite opponent can be enough to end a tournament. That is why the biggest challenge ahead may not be the fame, but learning how to perform while carrying it. Players like Carlos Alcaraz have already experienced what happens when global attention arrives at a young age, while stars such as Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, Iga Swiatek, and Elena Rybakina understand how quickly expectations can become pressure. Alex is entering that world now, and every result will be judged against the enormous potential people see in her. Yet there is something different about her story. She isn't trying to become a star overnight. She has spent years building toward this moment, from her early development in the Philippines to the demanding environment of Spain and then the professional tour, where every victory had to be earned. That history matters because it gives her something no billboard or sponsorship can create: belief built through experience. And if Alex can carry that belief into the US Open, the possibilities become very interesting. Maybe she reaches a breakthrough round that nobody expected. Maybe she knocks another established name out of the tournament. Maybe she goes even further and turns the biggest stage in American tennis into her personal coming out party. Nobody can guarantee which path comes next, and that uncertainty is exactly what makes her so exciting to watch. What is already clear is that Alex Eala has crossed a line. She is no longer simply a young player with potential waiting for her big opportunity. She has become a player people are actively watching, opponents are preparing for, and fans are emotionally invested in. For the Philippines, her journey represents something even larger. Proof that a player from Manila can dream beyond the traditional tennis powerhouses and eventually stand among them. The billboard in New York may disappear after the US Open. The headlines will eventually move on. The cameras will eventually turn toward another star. But the impact of Alex Eala's rise could last much longer. Because when a young athlete reaches a stage that once seemed completely out of reach, she doesn't just change her own career. She changes what the next generation believes is possible. And now, with the entire tennis world watching, Alex Eala has one enormous question left to answer. Was this only the beginning?